Hello and welcome to this episode of the Glasgow Business Gameplan. And on this episode, we are joined by Simon Hanna from Filshill. Simon, how are you?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Stephen. Yep, just back from holiday, so yeah, energized and ready to go.
Brilliant. Yeah, thanks for joining us today. So we'll just dive straight in. And Simon, tell us a little bit about yourself and the business.
So yeah, I guess I joined the business 25 years ago. Spent a bit of time in Australia playing rugby post school, and then came back to go to uni in Edinburgh for a few years, and then joined the family business. Pretty much started that journey from the ground up. So my first role was, packing the beer aisle and filling all the shelves ahead of a busy Christmas period, and then spent a dozen years or so just working my way through the business. So yeah, I kind of learned a lot about how the operational side of the business worked, and I had my reach truck license and forklift license and all these sort of things that you have, and that was a great grounding for me in terms of learning the business and more importantly the people.
And was that your introduction into it, just that Christmas period? Because obviously in retail, it doesn't get any more chaotic than that kind of 4 or 5 weeks of the year.
Yeah, well, admittedly, I wasn't overly committed to my university course, and it was more a forced career move by my mum and dad rather than a selective one from my perspective. But I guess I've been around for 25 years and haven't really, got around to thinking about what I want to do when I grow up. So yeah, I think I'm in here for the long haul now.
Yeah, brilliant. So I just go on and tell us a bit more about what Filshill does.
So we essentially are a wholesale distribution business of convenience products, beers, wine, spirits, grocery, tobacco. We're 149 years old this year, so fifth generation. We recently moved our distribution centre from Hillington and built a purpose-built centre here in Westway in Renfrew. So essentially, we service around 1,500 customers, everything from convenience stores, prisons, schools, universities, forecourts. We cover the islands and we go as far south as Doncaster, all from our HQ in Renfrew. We sell roughly 1 million boxes a month, so quite a high throughput of volume. And I guess efficiencies are absolutely critical to generating profits at the end of the year. But we've got 235 colleagues that have been around for a pretty long time here, and very much a business for families as opposed to a family business. Lots of family connections. 26 different families work here. So whilst a fairly intense, high volume business, very much that business for families culture.
I've got a funny feeling you've just touched on it, but tell me a bit more about why you love the business.
Listen, everybody says it's about people, but it genuinely is. We're very lucky. We've got lots and lots of people that have been here for a very long time. Some instances their fathers or their grandfathers may have worked in the business too. We've also got a very close relationship with our suppliers. They are part of the Filshill family as well as our customers. It is definitely a people business, and looking after our people and enjoying each other's company and having a bit of fun together is also quite important. So, yeah, that's the main reason. I guess we're in an industry sector where you're dealing with the biggest brands, with the biggest marketing budgets, the opportunity to engage with shoppers both digitally and bricks and mortar as well. So, it's a good fun industry to be involved in, and we try and have a lot of fun, and we work pretty hard at the same time. So, yeah, there's lots of reasons to love wholesale.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts in there, Simon, and it must be really difficult to coordinate and pull that together. Obviously, with the different teams that you've got in place. What do you think's been the most important thing to get it running really well, and obviously being recognised in the industry for that?
I remember my business coach telling me that culture eats strategy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And at the time, I didn't really believe that. I always thought it was about strategy. And, he was absolutely right. Making sure that the core values that you build your business on are lived and breathed every day. They're not just words on a wall. You know, our values are the basis of our recruitment, they're the basis of our appraisals. You know, our remuneration progress is based on our values. So once you've got your values right and a cohort of people that buy into those values, it then becomes about strategy. You know, having lots of complexity. This is a very low margin business, so you know we've got to be absolutely focused on the numbers, and that's an important part. But you know, back in 2021, we set ourselves, you know, a 10-year strategy. We created a 10-year target, a 3-year picture, and a 1-year plan, and everything circulates around these. So the 1-year plan is broken into 4 90-day bursts. Every department has their own objectives to try and land every 90 days, and that is about progress. And then we have our company objectives that we try and align. So that's kind of the structure. I guess the key area that was really important as part of that process was building what we called the accountability chart. You know, one of the things the biggest mistakes I made when I first joined the business and took over as MD at the time was thinking that getting involved in everything was helping everybody. And very quickly, what I created was upward delegation, and nothing was really getting done because there was too much happening and too much requirement for me to be involved. So that accountability chart was a really interesting part of the process. Every bit of functional process was attributed to an individual or a department, and they were fully empowered to then manage their accountabilities within that process. And that really created this movement of progress. Being transparent as a business is very important. I know a lot of leaders talk about it. You know, we take our transparency to depths that not many do. You know, we share with every single colleague how much profit we made last month and you know how the business is performing. It's a very open culture here, and the only way that we can get everyone involved and engaged is really to one, empower them, two, give them accountability, and three, be very transparent about how we're performing and the issues that we have to face into collectively as a group. And I think that's the way that, you know, I've found that that's been most successful for me in my career here at Filshill.
And I mean, it can be quite a scary process to go through in terms of, you know, when you are taking the responsibility and accountability for everything, is then to almost going line by line through the P&L and giving that to other people and departments within the business. How difficult a transfer was that from you to be able to sort of relinquish some of that, or you know, was it a straightforward process? And even getting people on board with that as well, Simon?
I think once you've got the structure of how you want to operate the process and really demonstrate that people are accountable and empowered, you know, often you'll say like, okay, you can make the decisions, but ultimately if there's a big decision, I'll make that decision. And that often undermines the process and the strategy and the structure around that. So, you know, I think once everybody was clear on the structure, you know, what is our 10-year target as a business? How are we going to get there? What are we going to do to get through that process? It was actually quite simple, and actually what I found was that everybody was pretty engaged in that process. And of course, there's some that take a little bit longer to get their heads around it, but that's just about coaching and understanding and demonstrating our commitment to the process. You know, we have weekly meetings every Tuesday at 3 o'clock. You know, management team get together. First thing we do is a mental health check-in, one word to describe how you're feeling at home and one word to describe how you're feeling at work. And the second thing we do is every manager gets 3 minutes uninterrupted to talk about their accountabilities in their department in the last 7 days, the good, the bad, the ugly. And then they get the opportunity to position any issues that they're not empowered to fix themselves. And we work as a collective to try and overcome those issues. You're not allowed to position an issue if you haven't thought about a potential solution. And that's, you know, the way that we try and make progress through problems, and sharing the weight of those problems, I think, has been very beneficial. It's also helped having every manager in the business understanding what's going on in other parts of the business. We're trying to remove the silo thinking that different departments, you know, can drift into at times, and that weekly meeting really helps us with that.
You've really outlined some key sort of ingredients, which is makes it all come together. You know, having that sort of vision, that goal that they're aiming for, that collective target, with strong leadership behind it as well, giving everybody that accountability, but giving them that, you know, the rules of the game, that framework to which they can play within and really deliver the best that they can is a really important one at times. I think sometimes that's a step that's overlooked. Is just being able to say to people, you know, this is the area that we want you to excel in and keep within the boundaries. You know, like a football pitch or a rugby pitch. There's white lines, there's touch lines, and there's the dead ball area, and it's play within the rules. So I really like that. And then you're giving the people that, as you say, the chance to just they build that backbone of the business. Then, don't they? They really take full responsibility and drive it forward. And I'm sure from in there as well that you know that reward and recognition that comes with that as well.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things we do in our meeting is give everyone the opportunity to, you know, highlight a colleague or a member of staff that's gone over and above. And that's important. It's not just about pay and remuneration, it's about recognition and celebration, and that I think is also, you know, goes back to our values and our culture.
It sounds like things are going really well for you and for the business, and it's going from strength to strength. Has it always been as straightforward as you're making it seem?
No, no, of course not. And you know, listen, every business has challenges. You know, the poor weather this year has had a big impact on retail. You know, food and drink retail. You know, whether that be the supermarkets, convenience stores. You know, the fact that 4 or 5% of the Scottish population were out of the Euros in Germany for a couple of weeks. You know, you're taking away a large number of, you know, heavy users of convenience stores in that space. But you know, listen, everyone's suffering the same challenges, and having, you know, the sort of foresight to think, okay, what next? You know, my accountabilities, you know, within the business aren't really about the everyday running of the business. They're very much about culture and values and innovation and diversification, and you know, that's a really important part of my role. So there's always somebody looking at, you know, the horizon. We try and balance our thinking in three buckets: today, tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow. And as long as we've got people around the business that are, you know, clearly focused on today, the everyday business, and some people focusing on what tomorrow might look like, and of course having a number looking at the day after tomorrow, we believe will keep us ahead of the game. And whether that be in sustainability, technology, you know, retail innovation, you know, HR, people, mental health programs, these are all things that we try and spend time on, not just how do we get more boxes out the door and how do we help our customers sell more. That's a core part of it, but also thinking ahead is very, very important, because you know, if we don't have a plan for tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, then we can get bogged down in today, and that's a danger for every leader.
I think one of the things you've mentioned there is just that innovation and technology, and you know you've been around long enough that you'll remember when you had people like me who were coming in as reps to see, and it was you know the triplicate forms that orders were taken on, and then out to see your customers as well. So it's moved on a bit from then. How are you finding integrating different technologies, and what's been the sort of the most useful step for you in
We've
recent
always
terms, obviously?
we've always been focused on technology and investing in future technologies. You know, if you take our warehouse here, you know, we've got some semi-automated racking systems, you know, gravity-fed racking, you know, in its physical structure. But, you know, having access to data is absolutely critical. I am amazed at how my dad was able to run the business for so long, so successfully, without actually being able to analyze the data in the same way that we're able to. So
Mm.
data is key, whether that's you know, internal systems data, or whether that's the EPOS data coming from the stores to pick up trends. You know, we're using Power BI every minute of every day, dashboards to analyze where we're at, how we forecast our future volume requirements, how we forecast our resourcing. And that naturally then leads on to how we help our customers sell more products and product trends and these sort of things. So the natural next steps, of course, will be around machine learning and artificial intelligence. And it's not just about having these systems in place, in my view, that every single person in this business, regardless of the role, needs to understand the capability of AI and machine learning. Because if we've only got a small number of people in the business, we'll only ever do projects around their knowledge base and their skill sets. If we've got people, in the warehouse that understand the capability of AI and ML, how might they push ideas forward for the business to consider? And it's not, there's not a great understanding of this, in deep parts of businesses. So, our job is to make sure everyone's well trained and understands how that works, so that we can then feed in concepts and ideas to take the business to the next level in the tomorrow and the day after tomorrow buckets.
And you're in quite a unique, obviously with retail, you're in quite a unique position where in your industry, as you said, you've mentioned some of the customers that you fulfill. Some of them will be part of a membership group, some of them will be franchised out. So that the sort of the downstream education of the data and the technology, surely that'll help to obviously integrate how they work with your business. But for some small business owners, that can feel like a step too much. What kind of support and guidance do you give out to the team there?
Well, the products we sell are not unique. You can buy these products from any of our competitors or buy them from any supermarket. So what we've got to do is make sure our service is unique. Our salespeople amazingly don't sell too much. Their job is to help work with the retailers in partnership, predominantly key store retailers, utilizing the EPOS systems and the data that they have to help them sell more. And the analytics that our guys will use will do that in partnership with our retail customers in order to try and optimize the range, the margin, the footfall, the promotions, the types of products seasonally. So it is about adding value rather than just trying to sell extra boxes. That long-term view, we've been around for nearly 150 years. We tend to apply a long-term view to our relationships and using the skills that we have to upskill our customers in order to create what we call a co-prosperity model, where they have to win, we have to win, and our suppliers have to win, is the process that we try and apply. And that's where we try and create a bit of a point of difference, bearing in mind that the products we sell are not unique.
Yeah, and it's having that sort of unique selling point, which really helps you to stand out in the industry where, as you say, there's lots of different suppliers, and at times your suppliers can go direct as well. Was that? I mean, it sounds like it must have been a strategic decision to go down that route to offer that additional support in that win-win environment.
I think technology's created this environment. So, in years gone by, the sales team would go around and physically capture orders, scratching the pad, as they would describe it in previous generations. But the EPOS systems can now generate orders based on what's been sold. All of the orders can be captured electronically. 96% of our orders are captured through electronic methods, whether that be through an app, through the EPOS systems, or through our website. And what that's done is freed up a whole load of time. Asking the sales guys to encourage all of our customers to place their orders online, was a little bit of a challenge. It was that sort of turkeys voting for Christmas concept. But once we got past that process of the new role will be around data analytics and category management and helping our customers grow, that's where the business has really accelerated. And those partnerships that our sales team have with our customers are invaluable, and they rely on each other, they help each other, and they like each other, and more often than not you do good business with people you like, and that's an important part of this process too. It's not just transactional for us.
Yeah, absolutely. People build businesses rather, and whether that's the people internal or external to it, it's having those good people around you that'll take you in that direction. Simon, it seems like you've been on a real journey here. You've learned a lot with it. Um, But I know from obviously from previous conversations that you've got some other interests that you're involved in as well. Do you tell us a little bit about some of the other things that you do? Because I can see that you've taken your experience of running a really good business and starting to apply it into other areas.
I've been involved in Scottish Edge for a number of years as a judge. Thoroughly enjoyed, spending time with the entrepreneurial network that is Scotland. It's a phenomenal network that we have here, and Scottish Edge is an incredible resource for entrepreneurial businesses, not just to gain early stage funding, but actually having that mentoring process and that business coaching process in order for them to be supported to succeed. Took over as chair of Scottish Edge earlier in the year, which has been a great experience. Tom Hunter and Ewan Hunter approached me and asked me if I wanted to look at taking on that role. And the concept here is about building a strategy for Scottish Edge for the next 5 years. There's some brilliant people involved in Edge, and we're very lucky to have these people around. But there's also huge support from the business network in terms of helping us judge and putting entrepreneurial businesses that they're aware of forward for Scottish Edge. So I thoroughly enjoy that. There's something hugely impressive around how fast these entrepreneurial businesses can go from point A to point B with no money, and succeed. And we look at our business as 149, nearly 150 years old. We've got to apply entrepreneurial thinking. So I learn as much from being around the entrepreneurs as I do in other parts of my business. So I enjoy that. I do a little bit of mentoring for some individuals. I'm currently working with a female professional golfer in trying to apply a business strategy to professional golf, which is really quite interesting. And that's been good fun actually, and just understanding that it isn't just about hitting the fewest shots around the course in a tournament. It's what do the practice KPIs look like? What are the tournament KPIs? And how does she position herself in order to attract new sponsors? So this is a completely left field angle of something, applying what I've learned in my business around measurement and KPIs and having a strategy and a vision and applying that to professional sport. So I'm thoroughly enjoying that too. So yeah, it's quite wide and diverse, but all designed around one, learning, and two having a bit of fun as well.
There's another saying which is that you're the sum of the five people that you spend the most time with, and it sounds like you're surrounding yourself with some people that are inspiring you as well as people that might look to you, as you say, from that mentor perspective. But it feels like you're getting just as much back from them as you're giving.
I've always been a big advocate of reverse mentoring. So, that concept of people that have been around industry for 20, 30 years know everything. And actually, there's a generation of future employee that we need to understand more about. When I look around here, there's dozens and dozens and dozens of people with decades of, service, commitment to the business. The next generation is a slightly different approach. And the more I can understand about the future employee of this business, the better, so that we can cater for the needs of those individuals. We spend a huge amount of time in this business on mental health and well-being and DEI and training, and these are all things that are becoming ever more important to future generations of employees here. So yeah, it's just all about continuous learning.
Absolutely. And it's been able to identify that next opportunity, which I think is really key for a lot of people. Just because it's been done that way doesn't mean it's the way it always has to be done, which is sometimes holds people back when they're trying to grow that business.
Yeah, and everything's about balance, and everything's about balance and balancing risk. But listen, if you're not going to take a risk, you're not really going to progress too far. I've always been a big advocate of, if I can't knock it out of the park between 40 and 50, I've got no chance. So, we're in that time window now and trying to knock it out of the park for the benefit of everybody.
Brilliant. No, there's what's that other phrase? The biggest risk is to do nothing at all, isn't it? Is that Robert Kiyosaki, isn't it? From there. Amazing. So Thanks so much for giving us a bit more of an insight into what you do, the business, and then obviously how you're taking that experience and helping others as well. What's in the future for the sort of the next 5 years for Filshill? Where are you aiming for in that 5-year vision?
So I guess, 150th year coming up next year. Going to be a big celebration there. We're looking to raise £150,000 for charities. We're going to implement 150 mental health first aiders in community stores in key store around Scotland. We've got a big AI project that we're going to launch next year, and a big focus around sustainability. We measure our CO2 generation in grams per case that we deliver, which is currently about 114 grams. We're looking to launch a project next year that will reduce that by 90%. So, there's some exciting stuff happening, in that space. When you're able to demonstrate that level of commitment to, CO2 reduction, it brings opportunities, very aligned to many of our core suppliers in terms of reducing their carbon footprint, and how do we utilize an efficient, sustainable supply chain right the way to the shopper. So that's a little bit of insight into what that looks like for next year. Of course, we're always looking at acquisition opportunities. We bought the Eldorado tonic wine brand a few years ago, and having a bit of fun with that. So it could be around brand ownership, it could be acquisition in this sector, but we definitely won't be sitting still for the next 5 years, I can assure you.
Yeah, I've seen some of the marketing on the tonic wine brand. It's definitely stands out, and it's definitely got some regionality to it. Pretty original as well. So good stuff. Simon, you're obviously you speak about the business a lot, and you're clearly focused on where it's going. But just when you get the opportunity to have these kind of conversations, what are the some of the things that stand out to you from what was spoken about?
Listen, we talk about this stuff every minute of every day. And it's actually quite nice to just sort of reassess all the things we're doing, how it's structured, the impact it's having on our people and our business and our customers and our suppliers. And it does make us proud. We're very proud of what we've got here. We're proud of the infrastructure. We're proud to be able to support so many businesses and people in our local area. And I guess that's what being a business for families or a family business is all about. And you will speak to lots of family businesses and they will have a similar sense of pride in what we do. And yeah, I think it's just reaffirming that pride and how much progress we're making, and the fact that we're never going to sit still is probably a nature that's consistent among many family business owners.
You're doing a terrific job, and the thing that really stood out to me from way back at the start was the fact that Felshill's a fifth generation business, and normally it's about the third generation they've buggered it up. So to keep going to the level you've done is great. For people that are maybe in that situation where they've maybe inherited a family business or somebody starting out on their own, what bit of advice would you give to them?
Listen, this business is 5 generations old. We've learned a lot. We're very lucky that we've got a 5 generational balance sheet here. So it does allow us to make, different decisions about risk and going after other opportunities. The thing that I would always say to people is just talk, just ask the question. Networking is incredibly important. And sometimes it's pretty awkward and uneasy. But if you're going to a networking event, the reason that people are there are to network, and they're more than happy to open up their networks to you. And I've done the same for many and asked of many to introduce me to others. So I think build the network, you know, surround yourself with people that are aligned to your own personal values, which more commonly are aligned to your business values. And if you've got any challenges or questions, just ask, and 99.9% of the time people will help, and that's what I've found from my experience of asking.
Amazing. Thanks so much for the insight and the advice. It's been great to find out more about you. If people want to find out more about Filshill, the key store brands, or anything else, where can they get that information?
Yeah, we've recently redone our website, so filshill.co.uk. But please feel free to reach out to LinkedIn if you want to have a chat with me or grab a coffee. I'm more than happy to do that.
Amazing. Simon, thanks so much for your time today. It's been a real pleasure, and wish you all the best for that 5-year vision.
Thanks, Stephen.